Welcome back, everybody, to the Real Estate Money School. This is Chris Noggle, your host, and I've got a really special guest today. One of the leading multifamily guys out there, Rod Khleif, and Rod is going to really do the best job of telling you about his background. But before we get into Rod's story, let's talk about all of your journey to becoming a rebel banker. That journey always begins with your expertise, with your search for knowledge and everything else. But you know what the big problem is? A lot of people out there have more information than they could ever digest, but they keep searching for more knowledge. And the one thing that they fail to do is they fail to apply the knowledge that they get. So in today's podcast, the one thing that I ask is whatever you learn, take one, maybe two golden nuggets and go out there and apply it immediately. Write it down and do something with it, because you know, a lot of people say knowledge is power. I think that's nothing. I think the real power comes in the application of knowledge, and I want all of you to apply the knowledge that you learn from this. So, Rod, thank you for joining us and the Real Estate Money School. I'm honored to have you on the show.
Oh, thanks, brother. Let's have some fun today, Chris. And I agree with everything you just said. And most of my messaging is around taking massive freaking action. If it was just the knowledge, there'd be a bunch of wealthy librarians and college professors out there. It's the do, and it's the keep doing when you get your butt kicked or your nose bloodied. It's knowing exactly what you want and why you want it. But maybe I could go back and tell you a little bit about my story, because I think, it'll tie into what we're talking about right now, frankly. Should I do that?
Yeah, I think the best thing is I've done a little research, and we talked a little beforehand, about your story, about your journey, because you've had a crazy roller coaster, much like I have. And I think it's very important that people understand, number one, the mindset, but also just what you went through on this journey. So yeah, please take us back and tell everybody a little bit about yourself and kind of, how you got where you're at.
Sure. Well, I'm going to take you way back because it ties into the future. So, I immigrated to this country when I was 6 years old with my brother Albert, my mother's Vantje. I was born in the Netherlands, in Holland, and we immigrated. We ended up in Denver, Colorado, where I lived for 30 years. And we grew up with very little. In fact, I wore clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army, secondhand clothes, all the way through junior high school till I could lie about my age and get a job when I was 14 at Burger King and buy my own clothes. And, we ate expired food. We drank powdered milk because my mom thought milk was healthy. And, I'm sure you've got listeners that have had it harder than we did, or maybe with all this COVID nonsense going on right now, they have it harder right now. But what I realized at the time was that I wanted more. And luckily, I was blessed that my mom was a bit of an entrepreneur. She had an incredible work ethic, and she babysat kids so that we'd have enough money to eat. And with her babysitting money, she actually invested in the stock market and made money, but she also bought the house across the street from us when I was 14 for about $30,000. Well, when I was 17, she told me it had gone up $20,000 in her sleep, and that it was worth about 50. And I'm like, what? Screw college, Mom. I'm getting into real estate. So I got my real estate broker's license right when I turned 18. I'm not just an agent. I was a broker. You could do it back then with education. They got smart now, and you actually have to have some experience to be a broker. But I was a broker right when I turned 18, and I was going to be rich selling other people's houses. Well, my first year in real estate, I made about $8,000. Maybe my second year, maybe about $10,000. But my third year, I made well over $100,000. And so what happened between year 2 and year 3? Well, what happened was I met a guy that taught me about the fact that truly 80 to 90% of your success in anything is your mindset and your psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the mechanics, be it real estate, be it in, stock market investing, be it, entrepreneurship. That's the vehicle is the smallest part of it. You actually have to take action with what you learn. And fast forward to today, I've owned over 2,000 houses that I've rented long-term. I've owned multiple apartment complexes. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. But there's a punchline, okay? And by the way, back then I thought I was a freaking real estate god. You couldn't fit my head through a double door. It got so big. And if you want to do the math on that, it's like $8,300 an hour, which of course I did and bragged about. And when that happens, people get a big head. Sometimes maybe God or the universe or whatever you believe will give them a nice little smackdown.
Action.
That was 2008. I lost the 17 million. I lost $50 million in 2008. And So one of the things I enjoy talking about, and I teach at my live events, and now they're now live stream events. But one of the things I enjoy teaching is the mindset that it took to, first of all, to have 50 million to lose in the first place, but then a mindset it took to get back to the success that I'm blessed to enjoy today. And so, if you want to drill down on that a little bit, Chris, I think your audience will enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to talk about because, everybody, when they're looking at real estate or, looking at people like yourself today, they're like, oh, he's so successful, I can never get there. Folks, listen, take that story that Rod just told. He came from nothing. I mean, if you look at his website, he used to wear leather shorts to school with wooden sandals.
You had to bring that up.
I'm sorry, man. That was just
I used to get my ass kicked every freaking day because my mom sent me to school in those damn wooden shoes, for show and tell, and I got my ass beat. And which ties into a lot, that actually has a lot to do with success.
I had to do it. I had to.
Yeah.
But, so when you guys think that you can't do something, like Rod did it, I did it. I came from nothing. You've heard my story. When you get to a certain point, and Rod, got to a big point, $50 million, and then one thing happens and that ego and everything else went right out the door. So now Rod could fit through the door because his head wasn't so big. But, I think that's going to be something good is talking about the mindset first.
Okay.
How did you get to $50 million? And then after you lost it?
It's the same answer. It's the same answer in both cases. The key is knowing exactly what you want with clarity, and then knowing why you want it. Like I'm rereading the Think and Grow Rich right now, Napoleon Hill's book. And when I tell you I've given away probably 4,000 copies, I'm not exaggerating because I gave it away at my live events. And it's a book you read multiple times a year, in my opinion. And I just I was reading it again last night. The first thing you have to have is a burning desire. Okay. That's what he talks, you have to really want it, but to want it, you have to know what the heck it is. Right. And so, I take my students through a goal setting workshop. I call it really goal setting on steroids at my live events. Why don't I describe it so your listeners can take some notes? If you're listening, if you can take some notes, I think you'll really be glad you did. If you want to join me at one of my events, they're $97 and I don't sell anything, but I'll tell you about that later. But the point, that's the first hour and a half, because honestly, it's more important than the real estate knowledge. You gotta know what it is you want and why you want it, because that's the fuel. That's what gets your ass out of bed early in the morning, or keeps you up late at night, or gets you back up when you get your butt kicked. It's that drive, that burning desire. So what you want to do is you want to pick an hour when you have a lot of energy. Okay, don't do it after a meal. Make sure you're well hydrated. Drink some water, and sit down and write down everything you could ever possibly want in life. All the stuff, and there's nothing wrong with stuff. And that stuff drove me for years, and I'll drill down on that in a minute. But the point is, the houses, the cars, the boats, the jet skis, the planes, write it all down. How much money do you want in the bank in a few years? How much money do you want in the bank in 10 years? How much net income do you want from whatever business endeavor you're doing, your real estate investing or whatever it is? How much money do you want in cash flow, say in 3 years? And how much do you want in 10 years? Write down everything you want to buy someone else as well. We'll do more for others than we'll ever do for ourselves. But the key here is, guys, take the lid off your brain. Imagine if you write it down, you're going to get it, which is not outside the realm of reality. Because and I'm sure that if you listen to Chris, you already do your goals, but trust me, this process is deeper than that. But you may not know that when you write down your goals and you associate with them regularly, what it does is it triggers something in your brain called your reticular activating system. And what that is a filter in your brain. It's subconscious. You're not aware of it, but it subconsciously points you in the direction that it thinks you're interested in. And the best example of it is when you first buy a car or truck. You never really notice them, and then you get it and you see them everywhere. Were they there before? Of course they were, but that's your reticular activating system. And so again, don't limit yourself. If you want a private island, a jet, a yacht, whatever it is, write it down, because that starts the process. There's truly nothing you cannot do, be, or have. And so write down everything. Also write down what you want to learn in this lifetime. Maybe a foreign language. Maybe you want to learn a skill. If it's multifamily, for God's sakes, come see me. But whatever it is, write down what you want to learn as well. Also write down everything you want to do. Maybe you want to travel certain places. Maybe you want to climb mountains. Maybe you want to learn, jump out of a perfectly good airplane. Skydive. I did that eight months ago. I'll never freaking do it again, but it's off the list. So write down everything you want to do as well. And then lastly, write down who you want to help. I said this, we'll do more for others than we'll ever do for ourselves. I bought my parents a house here on a canal when my dad was alive. I bought them a car, took them on cruises. Who do you want to do something for? Write it down. Because this is the fuel, guys. And if you're analytical, please don't stop and analyze it or evaluate it or any of that. Just keep writing. Don't let the pen leave the paper. You can always scratch it out later. But again, don't limit yourself. If you whatever that almost unbelievable thing is that you want, write it down. All right, then it's not real until it's measurable. So you've got to put a time limit on each goal. So I want you to put a number by each goal as to how many years you think it's going to take you to achieve it. Just put a 1, a 3, a 5, even a 10 or a 20. And again, don't overthink this because, just guess at it and just blow through it. But people will overestimate what they can do in a year and massively underestimate what they can do in 5, 10, 20 years. I'll give you an example of this. When I was 18, I lived in Denver, but I knew I wanted to ultimately live on the beach. I'd seen pictures and movies of, the surf and the sand and the palm trees and there's no beach in Denver. And so I would visualize it, and 20 years later, that visualization came to fruition, and I built this $8 million, 10,000 square foot mansion on the beach where I owned the beach on one side, and it was a slice through an island. It's called Gulf to Bay, and on the backside I had boat lifts. And that was unthinkable when I was 18. So that's the point I'm making. I mean, this house was magnificent, but that was unthinkable when I was 18. So again, don't limit yourself. Just imagine it, and you can make it happen. And then once you've got a time limit on each goal, I want you to pick your number one goal. I mean, that goal, when you get it, you're like, oh my God, life is amazing. That goal, put it on another piece of paper. Then I want you to pick your top 3 one-year goals, put them on another piece of paper, and leave some room in between them. And I will tell you, at this point, you're ahead of 99.9% of the people on the planet that do a New Year's resolution and have forgotten it by, February. But there's a couple more really important steps. So the goals are powerful. They will push you. They will pull you. They will propel you. But what the real juice is knowing why those goals are an absolute freaking must. You must achieve them. So I want you to write a paragraph under each goal why it has to happen. And use emotionally charged words. Words are incredibly powerful. Words like amazing, beautiful, incredible. Use them because they will juice you. So you might say something like, so I can show my kids what incredible success looks like. So I can show my spouse what it means to live in a life of success. So we can have freedom to do whatever we want, whenever we want, go wherever we want, bring whoever we want, whatever it is for you. But write your why down. Maybe it's my why now is my wife. I live my life to serve her. So whatever it is for you, use that. And once you've got a positive reason why, there's one little tiny tweak I want you to add. I want you to put some pain in there if you don't achieve the goal. Because as human beings, we'll do more to avoid pain than to get pleasure. And you want to use this again. So you want to say things like, so I don't feel like a freaking failure. So I don't fail my kids. So I don't fail my wife or husband. So that I don't live a life of regret. I mean, make it freaking hurt if you don't get those goals. And, I'll tell you a story. There was a nurse in Australia. Her name is Bronnie Ware, and she was a hospice nurse. So she counseled patients when they were about to die. She asked them a question. You know what the question was, Chris? It was, do you have any regrets? And she even wrote a book about it. It's called The 5 Regrets of Dying. And you know what the number one regret was? It was not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life, not doing what I know I was capable of. Guys, I say screw that. And this is the fuel to prevent that from happening, okay? We don't want any regrets. In fact, if you're out there fearing failure, I would tell you, be much, much more afraid of regret than failure. We actually fail our way to success, guys. I've built 24 businesses. I don't call them failures. I call them seminars when they crash and burn. That was a $50 million seminar. It was a painful seminar. It was my biggest one. But I've had numerous seminars. In fact, out of those 24 businesses, several were worth tens of millions of bucks. But most were spectacular flaming seminars, okay? We fail our way to success. In fact, I met the billionaire owner of Spanx, the women's undergarment company, and she started with $5,000, and she was on Forbes last year. I mean, she's an amazing human being. Her name's Sarah Blakely, and I met her at a mastermind that I was at. But she told me that her dad used to ask her and her siblings, at dinner, what have you failed at today? I love that freaking question to ask your kids so they don't fear failure. But anyway, so You've got your positive and negative reasons why. Now you need to go get pictures of your goals. You need to visualize them. You need to bring them into fruition. And you do that through visuals and through declarations and things like that. And so, let me give you some public examples of that. Jim Carrey wrote himself a check for $10 million when he was flat broke. If you Google it and look it up, you'll see it's right there. And he used to go up by the Hollywood sign and he would visualize cashing it. And that's how much money he made for Dumb and Dumber. And then he wrote it to himself when he was broke. Another great recent example, Demi Lovato, when she was really an unknown 10 years ago, posted on social media, "I'm going to sing in the Super Bowl." Go watch the last Super Bowl and see who sang in it. So, and I'll give you some personal examples for me. Back when I was 18, I knew I needed a 4-door car to go show people houses, right? So I bought this bone ugly freaking 4-door Granada, bench seat in the front, just a piece of what. But I worked with a guy that had a couple of Corvettes and he let me drive one. And that experiential piece is really important. I drove it and I'm like, oh my God, I freaking love this. So I actually got a picture of a Corvette out of a magazine. I mean, this is before the internet had been thought of. And I put it on the visor of my bone ugly Granada. Every time I sat in it, it was right there in my face. And within a year or two, I had a beautiful Corvette. Now I want to give you some more examples, but please understand the house, all this stuff I'm telling you about, please know it's not me bragging because this stuff really doesn't even interest me anymore, but I'm hoping to inspire you. Okay. So this was the time when the TV show Magnum PI was playing, and Chris, this is probably before you were born, brother. But,
oh no, I know Magnum PI.
No, okay, all right, awesome.
You think?
All right. So is Tom Selleck. Is it Tom Selleck?
Yeah.
Tom Selleck. Yeah, was the actor, the detective in Hawaii, and he drove this awesome Ferrari, red Ferrari 308.
Awesome. I'll never forget
car.
that freaking car.
It was the first time
I ever saw.
Yeah. First car that I ever saw that was exotic like that. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. So I actually got a picture of that car out of a magazine, put it on the visor of my Corvette. Within a year or two, I had a Maserati, looked just like it. Last example, one more car example. So I'm the guy that always wanted a Lamborghini. I thought that was important. Get the girls, get the hot cars. And so I have posters in my room of the Lamborghinis growing up and my son, which is interesting, when he was 9 years old, he collected exotic models of exotic cars. He had a model of the exact same color and style Lamborghini that I ended up getting, which I ultimately wrecked. But the point is, get freaking pictures. In fact, let me show you something. This is my planner. I don't know when this is going to go live, but today is September 11th, and I'm on. Oh wow, September 11th. Oh, big day.
Yeah,
okay,
big day.
So in the back of this book, this planner that I've had for 20 years, I've had these pictures. They're in plastic. The first pictures are my gratitude pictures. They're pictures of my kids when they were very young, okay? Everything starts from a place of gratitude, guys, and it's foundational. So if you're going to manifest anything in your life, you do it through gratitude. And I'll explain a little process that I do in a minute to use that. But so I've got pictures of my kids, gratitude pictures. Then I've got pictures of the houses that I wanted. What's crazy is this top picture looks just like the view from the house that I built on the beach. I had 10-foot high glass, 80 feet long. I had the travertine floors like this. Now, what's even crazier is I live in a compound now. I've got 6 buildings. I've got a giant main house, a beautiful guest house. I've got a separate media building with an exercise facility that's off the chain. I've got a theater room above it. I just built a video studio because everything's live. I mean, video now. And because God's got a sense of humor, my old house that I lost in all the craziness is right across the bay. I can see it every time I go in my backyard. But what's crazy is look at these bottom pictures, Chris. And I don't know, you guys on iTunes can't see this, but there's these concrete walls in 2 of the pictures. They're actually 2 different properties. That's a view of my backyard. Look behind me, brother. Is that freaking crazy?
Way.
There's the same freaking wall. And these pictures are 20 years old. And then, I've got pictures of other, stupid shit I thought was important. I've got a few $100,000 worth of watches, the Lamborghini before I ever got it, the Rolls Royce, the Bentley, all this stuff that I got because I had pictures. So I know I've lost some of you analytical ones that are like, oh, please get on with the real estate, quit with the foo-foo stuff. Well, big mistake, my friends, because this is the meat. This is what makes this happen because you have to take freaking action. So go get pictures. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox, brother.
No, listen, there's a lot to be said. Think and Grow Rich. If you guys have not read that book, it's a must. It's not even an optional thing. You have to read that book, and you have to read it probably twice. There's a lot in that book you got to take in. Earl Nightingale did an interesting piece back a long time ago that you should all look up on YouTube that talks all about this. Thoughts are things, folks. Everything he just said, those pictures, those thoughts he had, those visualizations, he probably had lucid dreams about some of those things that he had pictures of. But you see, one thing you don't understand if you haven't studied this, those thoughts have to become things. It's not an option. And he's saying that this happened. Listen, I could go on and on, but this is about Rod, not me today. I could talk to you about the things that I've had lucid dreams about. Those things have to happen because it's not an option, because it's a freaking universal law. You guys understand gravity, right? Go up something high and jump off and you'll understand gravity. Well, this law of thoughts are things is the same thing. If you just do what he said, if you create the vision board, if you think about these, you can't just put them on a board. You have to actually think about them at least 3 times per week, as Nightingale would say. And let me kind of go back to one thing you said that I thought was so important. Let's go out. If all of you went out and you interviewed 125-year-olds and you asked them one question, you said, will you be successful at 65? Before you get that out of your mouth, they're going to be saying absolutely no problem, no question about it. They all have zero thought about that. They're going to be a success at 25. But for some reason, the statistics show something totally different. You see, what happens is from that 25-year-old, that day that they're invincible, they think they can do anything. By the time they reach 65, the statistics say that only 5 out of those 100 will be financially secure at the age of retirement. Only one of them will be what we would call wealthy or rich. What the hell happens, folks? Well, I'll tell you what happens. Rod already said it. The 95% that are still working at 65, 75, and 85, they decided to conform. They decided to conform and just do what everybody else does, to just follow along with the herd. You know what the 5 did differently? They created. They stopped conforming and they created the life they wanted. Early on, he talked to you about, something I call creating your perfect day. If you could live your perfect day every day, that's great. Like if you could live that, that'd be wonderful, wouldn't it? But do you know what your perfect day looks like? From the moment you wake up and take your breath to the moment you go to sleep, could you describe that perfect day straight through? And could you? Probably not. Well, if you can't describe it, you can't have it. So right there, that explains what he was saying. I just wanted to point this out because listen, I'm successful, Rod's successful, all the people you see on this podcast are successful. All of it started with these dreams. These crazy dreams because we wanted those things. And those dreams never died, because if they died, we would have quit. And that means we would have failed at life and we would have failed at our dreams. So Rod, I didn't mean to take time away, but it's so important. And listen, I subscribe to this. Okay. Yeah. I believe the law. The law is my life, and everything you just did, I do the same damn thing. Everything I have is because of these. The car I drive right now is because of a picture on my vision board. The house we have is because of pictures on the vision board. Folks, This isn't just Rod saying this. This is every person you're going to talk to that has the things that they wanted because they understood this universal law.
Yeah. No, actually, that's an exercise I take people through at my live events is writing down their idea day from the minute they get up until they go to bed, because if you can't articulate it and have clarity around it, how are you ever going to get it? It's the same thing with your goals. Clarity is power. And so literally that's an exercise we do it when I do my 3-day boot camps. I don't do it in my 2-day live stream anymore. I was supposed to have 800 people in Orlando in May, and we all know what happened with that. And every one of my live events has been sold out. So I had to pivot. And if you go to multifamilyvirtualbootcamp.com, you'll see me with my cell phone in the backyard. In 2 days, we got this website up, and I'm recording it in the backyard. Because I had to pivot or innovate, and maybe you need to pivot or innovate right now in wherever you're at. But I grabbed my vision boards only to say that I have trouble with the mental visualization. So I need the picture. So every morning I will sit. And I talked about gratitude. I'll do gratitude. Like this is my travel vision board, places I've gone, places I want to go. I'll set this down now. But the point is, I'll do gratitude for the things that I want, that I have in my life, my amazing, beautiful wife, my kids, my foundation, my students. I've got almost 500 students. And I'll just do gratitude for that. But then I'll do gratitude for the things that I want that I don't even have yet, as if I already have them. And this is something that Napoleon talks about in Think and Grow Rich as well. And sometimes I'll get emotional over things I don't even have yet. And I know I lost a few more of you analytical ones, but my point, I'm telling you, big mistake, because this is how I was able to do it. This is how most successful people are able to do it. They have to see it in their mind for it to become real. And, let me share one other thing with you, Chris. It's important as it relates to goals. So, I built that house on the beach. And that place was magnificent. Okay. I had a giant waterfall from the second floor balcony into the pool. The pool was in magazines because I had tens of thousands of dollars worth of trees that went out over it. It was just magnificent, and giant, big spiral staircase up through the middle. Mm-hmm. To give you an idea, I'll land the plane with this.
I'm looking at it.
Oh, you are? Okay, awesome. On the second floor, I had aquariums that cost me almost $200,000. They curved around the spread. So that gives you an idea of the house. Well, anyway, 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night. It's changing colors. It had fiber optic lighting. And I'm looking up at this testament to my ego, which is really what it was. I built it to prove the world I was good enough. You talked about the leather pants, and I got my butt kicked almost daily. And I came up with this question, or this thought process that I wasn't good enough. And I asked myself the question, how can I show them I'm good enough? And which presupposed that I wasn't. And so I'm looking up at this house that I built to prove the world that I mattered. 2 months after I moved in, now this is something I worked for 20 freaking years, okay? 2 months after I moved in, and I got depressed. Now, I don't mean just a little bit bummed. I was really bummed. I'm like, what the hell? How could I possibly be depressed? I've achieved success like times 1,000. Well, and this is what I wanted to share before I forgot. There were several things happening, okay? Important things. Number one is you should never achieve a big goal without having other goals lined up behind it. Like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. You need a vision for the future. And I didn't know what the hell I was going to do next. That's number one. Second thing is it's not really about the goals. The goals are important, that you need them. I've got pictures of the things that I want now around me and the vision boards and stuff. They're important. But they're not going to make you happy. You'll be happy for a short while, just like when you buy a car, or when you buy a boat. They say the happiest days of a boat owner's life, the day they buy it, the day they sell it. That's the goals you need them. But it's your continual progress and growth that makes you happy. You have to be growing and progressing. And I didn't know what the hell I was going to do to grow beyond that. So that was the second thing. But the third most important thing was I was successful, but I was unfulfilled. Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement and the art of fulfillment. And I've been totally focused on Rod. Show the world I'm good enough. Show the world I matter. And so I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? I got to get out of this funk. So I went and saw Tony Robbins that year, actually. And I found out that he fed families for the holidays. And I'm like, what a concept. Do something for someone else. I was 40. I'm embarrassed to say I was 40 before I got that memo, because I'd been totally focused on proving the world that I was good enough. And so I went back. Now, he fed families for the holidays. I'm like, hey, that's a cool idea. I'm going to try that. So I picked 5 families, called a church, said, who really needs help? And we got these 5 families. And the third one changed my life. And I'll just quickly describe what happened. So we got these big boxes of food. We found out they had kids, and this lady did. So we had toys for the kids. We did it for Thanksgiving. We do it for Christmas now, but frozen turkeys and roasting pan for the turkey and all kinds of stuff. And we get on this lady's porch, and she was in this row house. Just a piece of crap. I don't know if you've ever been in the inner city. They have these places where you walk into the living room, but you got to walk through the bedroom to get to the kitchen, which has the bathroom off of it. Just not even a 1-bedroom. She lived there with 5 kids. Well, she came out, she saw the stuff on the porch, and she started crying. Her kids came out, the older one started crying. I start crying, and I'm like, okay, I freaking love this. I'm going to be doing this. So I'm blessed to say, Chris, in the last 20 years, we fed 80,000 children here locally for the holidays. We've done tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies. Don't get me started on that. We're the richest country on earth, and we can't even give our kids the basic supplies they need for school. Teddy bears. I've done tens of thousands of teddy bears to local police departments for their officers to keep in their cars. And that has made me fulfilled. And the reason I bring this up, I paid for this, by the way. I paid for, 1,500 families in 2008, but then the world crashed, and now I have a foundation. It's called the Tiny Hands Foundation. And I pay for all the operational expenses. And if you want to donate, I'd be grateful, because everything goes to food or, backpacks and stuff, but it's tinyhandsfoundation.org. But the point I'm making in all of this is, so many, and I know if you're listening to Chris, you might be young and hungry, blood dripping from your teeth. You want this bad. I'm here to tell you that if you don't incorporate giving back in some fashion, you're making a big mistake. Not only will you get to success faster, you'll be fulfilled and happy on the journey. And so many people are hoping to achieve success so they can be happy. I'm going to tell you, it's much better to happily achieve. start now. So you don't have to do anything as grandiose as I've done. Pick a family, help a family, pick an elderly person, help an elderly person, whatever it is, help the environment, whatever juices you, animals, whatever it is, but do something to give back, because the success is going to become faster and it'll be a much happier progress. And life is too short to even have 1 year of unhappiness. So anyway, I'm done.
I think that stuff's great, and you guys all have to understand that, in order to be successful, Zig Ziglar said it, I think, best. He said, you have to help to be successful. You have to help other people get what they want. And once you do that, you will get what you want. And if you just understand that one message across, what Rod was just talking about,
success is inevitable.
Things change so fast. You don't even understand. But if you never do it, you'll never understand, because you'll just go about life being self-centered and doing things because you think you have something to prove. And then all of a sudden it will be taken from you. It will.
Let me share something on that, Chris. I have a podcast. It's called Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. And as I was telling you, I'm blessed. We just broke 9 million downloads. And I've interviewed billionaires on my show. I've interviewed mega millionaires, and I can tell if they're like I was back then, totally focused on themselves. I can see the ego. I can see the need for significance. And I'm saddened by it because they're not happy. I know that the money doesn't bring the happiness. It's recognizing that we're put on this earth to contribute. And if you don't mind, let me mention, I do a 2-day live stream event now. It's $97. I'll give you a code. So it's $97. It's 2 full days of teaching, and I don't sell anything. Okay. It's 16 hours. I'm teaching you about multifamily, and I've got one coming up. I don't know when this episode is going to go out, but it's October 17th and 18th. Will this go out before then, Chris?
It will. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. It's October 17th and 18th. If you text Rod Live to 41411, Rod Live is one word, to 41411, we'll send you the information. Or you can just go to multifamilyvirtualbootcamp.com. And if you use the code RODFRIEND, one word, RODFRIEND, you can get in for $97. I mean, it's a no freaking brainer because, again, I'm not selling anything. And I'll have $1 billion with the panelists that we take questions with. But it's full-on training. In fact, let me show you some. These are the resources that you get. I've got 10 books of stuff that you get. The manual, here's the manual alone. It's 150 pages. So, I mean, this is not some fluffy sales pitch. There's no sales pitch at all. It's just training. So if you're interested in this business at all, come spend a couple days with me, multifamilyvirtualbootcamp.com. I promise you'll be glad you did. I've had thousands of people do it now, and I've not had one negative comment, except that my breaks are too short because I do 15-minute breaks because I've got so much material to get out. But other than that, people rave about it. But make sure you use the code RODFRIEND because the price has already gone up to 150 and you can get in for 97. So.
And we'll put all those notes in the description for the podcast. So,
Thanks.
If that was too fast for you and you couldn't write that down fast enough, just look at the notes and it'll be up there or down there, whichever device you're using, and you guys can take part in that. I mean, multifamily investing, so many people venture into that world, and you can get chewed up and spit out real quick if you don't know how it works and what you're doing. You're
dabblers get crushed. Dabblers get crushed. Don't play with it. Even if you're going to invest passively, come spend a couple days with me. Why would you give your money to someone if you don't know what the heck, have some basic understanding of what it is? And you'll leave with way more than a basic understanding. So, and we do networking and stuff like that because that business really is a team sport, multifamily real estate. Mm-hmm. And let me talk about something because people always ask me, how come you crashed and burned in 2008? Can I share why?
Oh yeah, no, we can't forget that.
Okay. So I had 800 houses, back in 2008 that I rented long-term. I had multiple apartment complexes. Here's what took me down. So, and by the way, I was at a 30% loan to value, Chris. I only owed 30 cents on the dollar. Okay. So, I mean, but listen up, because it's never about the value. It's about cash flow. And that's the subtitle of my book, The New Rules of Real Estate Investing, i.e. the new rule is focus on cash flow, not equity. It's irrelevant, or value. But what happened was I had these 800 houses, and Florida has no state income tax, so the property taxes are higher, which impacts what? Cash flow. I had houses in wind and flood zones with higher insurance, which impacts what? Cash flow. But what killed me was my houses were 2 hours north and 2 hours south and everywhere in between. Logistically challenging to manage, to say the least. Let me give you some examples. Let's say I had a maintenance issue at one of my apartment complexes. Everything's the same. appliance parts are the same, HVAC parts, plumbing parts, fixtures, locks, everything is the same. So we could stockpile parts. I could send a maintenance guy in and out in an hour. Okay. Well, if I had to send someone to one of my houses, let's say it's an hour away or longer, they got to drive there and back. Number one, they have to see what's wrong. And then they have to go find a Home Depot or a Lowe's and get parts, come back. And I don't know if you've ever worked on something, but invariably you go more than once because you figure out you need something else. Well, so what would take an hour at one of my complexes took all day at one of my 800 houses. And these were C-class houses, which have, higher maintenance than, higher class properties. So these were C-class. But the last thing that killed me, which was kind of, well, two things really. One was when I discovered I was actually upside down. My portfolio actually dropped more than 70%. Which is just astounding. I mean, I used to think Florida was recession proof. I used to tell people 80 million baby boomers getting old, getting cold. Florida's cool. Well, on that one. But so there was that. But the big thing was a lot of my residents were contractors. They were plumbers, electricians, drywallers, painters, roofers, which fell off a freaking cliff in 08 and 09. So they just didn't have work. And so that's why it crashed and burned. And that's why I love multifamily. It's the reason I started my podcast, Lifetime Cash Flow, because when you buy multifamily, by the way, my multifamily through all of that just pulled back. It pulled back about 11%. I could have easily made it. My problem was to save some interest rate. I'd bundled packages of houses with my apartment complexes to save a few basis points on interest rate. I thought I was brilliant, but that took it all down. Otherwise, I'd still have those apartment complexes. And that's one of the main reasons I started my podcast, was to tell people, if you're going to buy and hold, for God's sakes, do a Plex or do a multifamily, because it's much safer. It's easier to manage logistically. And, it's just a better investment. Like right now, retail's getting crushed. Office is getting crushed. But multifamily's holding its own. It's doing fine. Is it going to have some pullbacks and some pain? Sure. I host a mastermind called the Multifamily Boardroom. And if I get one of the two guys I'm wooing right now, I'll have over 10 billion in assets represented by the 55 people that are in there. Well, just yesterday, we had a meeting, our monthly meeting, which was around asset management in times of crisis. I'm convinced that we're headed for a crash. I'm convinced that real estate 100%. Is going to get hurt here in the next year or so. You can't have this kind of unemployment. I mean, this feels like 07 all over again to me.
I think it feels a lot worse than 07.
Right. I don't agree. I mean, I completely agree is what I'm saying. I don't disagree. And so the point is, and it's not something to fear, guys. Now, yes, you may have to innovate, pivot, go get another job, whatever it is. Just go do it. Focus on what you want. The key here is your focus. You've got to, if you're listening to Chris, you're a leader. And right now this world needs leaders. So you need to direct your focus, make sure you're, focus on what you want, not what you don't want. Don't get me started about CNN or something. I mean, don't be looking at the news. The news is not there to inform us. It's there to scare the shit out of us. So don't get sucked into that. Stand guard at your mind and bring in the good stuff. On my podcast, I do a clip. You should listen to it. Even if you're not going to do multifamily, I do a clip every week called Own Your Power. And it's motivational. It's about mindset. It's about taking action. It's only 5 minutes. Start your day off with one of those. Don't sit and watch all the crap on the news, or go to YouTube and watch motivational videos. Bring in the good stuff that's going to juice you and motivate you and propel you and get you to take action towards your dreams. And if you can come see me for a couple days, I promise you'll be glad you did. But at the very least, enjoy the podcast, because I really get a lot of rave reviews about those episodes, because people get juiced, and you need that positive stuff coming in, not the crap. Anyway, so.
I love it. So there's just been some serious golden nuggets. So folks, you're serious about getting into multifamily. And I mean, so maybe you just got scared by what we just said about what we see coming. This is good.
I forgot to say the most important piece, Chris. Forgive me for interrupting you. Guys, put on your rose-colored glasses, because with every crisis comes opportunity. Sorry about that. There you go, man. Put those on, because with crisis comes opportunity. There's incredible opportunity coming, and probably the biggest opportunity in our lifetimes is about to happen. And so get in cash, or get access to cash, learn this business so you can influence people to invest with you, and watch out, because the stuff could be 30 cents on the dollar or better. And if you listen to my podcast, you'll start to see a pattern. The guys that have thousands of doors, most of them started in 9, 10, and 11. That's what we call a clue, my friends. Okay. So if you're thinking about this business, for God's sakes, come see me, get up to speed so you can start building relationships, because what's been hard up to this point has been finding deals. What's going to get hard next year is finding money. But if you've started to talk to your friends and pre-frame them and said things like, hey, sorry about this expression, but when there's blood running in the streets, that's when we're going to buy. So don't be afraid of it. When the news is talking about how horrible real estate is and it's going to be that way for 10 years, just ignore it, because that's, Warren Buffett's got a quote around this. I just posted it in the, I'll butcher it, but something like, when people are scared, get excited. When people are excited, get scared. Something like that.
When others are fearful, get greedy. When others are greedy, be fearful.
That's it. And it's being a contrarian, but that opportunity is coming, guys. Sorry, I interrupted you, brother.
That's all right. So, there's a lot to be said, and he's right. Because, I'm the money guy. So that's what we talk about all the time. And I've spending a lot of time on Wall Street in my life. I'll tell you, it's coming, folks. Your time is running out. You are literally just about out of time. So if you were like looking at your life and you were saying, okay, well, how much time do I have, to get things done and to make these changes, to get in cash in my 401k, to get out of these risky investments, to really kind of get ready, hunker down, because the darkness is not over yet. It's just beginning. The monster hasn't even shown his teeth. What you saw in March, that was literally the monster just snarling. Like, you saw one tooth. You haven't seen anything yet. So again, as I always say, take off the rosy colored glasses and start seeing this for what it's going to be. And if you need money, you want to raise money, I got a second challenge for you. This podcast is all about taking action. Stop getting just, going out seeking knowledge. Take action. So here's another challenge. Grab one of my books. Okay, right there, the Private Money Guide. You need money for your deals? You want this book to learn how to find and raise millions of dollars of private money without ever having to ask for it? The secret's right here. So if you want a copy of that book, grab it for free. I'll give it to you. I give everything away for free because I think sometimes, if you give your best stuff away for free, you have more to benefit from that. But you don't understand that yet. You want that book? Go to my website, chrisnoggle.com, and go to the resources tab, 2 swipes, and click on free book. And you guys can learn how to raise money, and then you can go to his workshop and learn how to buy unbelievable multifamilies, because that opportunity is about to get really ripe and really juicy. So get ready for it, because it's coming. So Rod, so we're going to put up those show notes. We're going to put it in there on how they can get a hold of you and how they can basically sign up for this event. And we're going to fast track this podcast so that it gets on there so people can hear about this.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that, brother. And guys, if you just text Rod Live as one word to 41411, you'll it's easy if you're driving or something right now. Rod Live is one word. But thanks for having me on, brother. I really appreciate it. And you're like a kindred soul. You're speaking my speak, because it truly is so much about. It's all about mindset. It really is. But we'll teach all the technical stuff on those 2 days. It's drinking through a freaking fire hose. I will tell you that. But if there's nothing in life that's worth it is easy. And so, it's worth it. And it's absolutely worth it. If you're willing to work like most people won't for a few years, you're going to live the rest of your life like most people can't. And I'm sure you've probably said that before yourself, Chris, because it seems like we say a lot of the same things. Good stuff. Yes,
absolutely. And I'm going to leave in parting words. This is what I'm going to say. My favorite quote of all times by Will Rogers. The problem in America is not what people don't know. The problem in America is what people think they know that just ain't so. Always remember that. Remember who you surround yourself with. Are they living the life you want to live? If they're not, remember that statement from Will Rogers and start changing who you're surrounding yourself with, and spend time with people like Rod, people like me, and your life will start to change if you know where you're going. So with that being said, Rod, thank you for your time, and thanks all of you for joining us for another episode of the Real Estate Money School. We'll see you guys in the next episode.